Misfits can force a four-way tiebreaker scenario, which, by the way, Vedius, we'd have at least 4 tiebreaker games. Now, those are actually going to be played tomorrow because we don't have enough time in the day.
Yes, and LCS will be playing later on this evening for their Week 9, so we will be moving on to tomorrow in the event that there are more than 2 tiebreakers later in the day. But that's all still to be decided. We're jumping in. Misfits have had a rough couple of weeks after a 9-0 first half of the split. They're now 2-7, I believe, Pius. 2-6, sorry, 2-6.
Yeah, and they've had just 2 losses stacking up with Vitality and G2 Esports, teams that are directly in the running against them for that bye.
So it's definitely been a rough couple of weeks. Roccat, they're on quite the losing streak themselves. They'd love to bounce back in today's game. They had a pretty competitive game yesterday against Fnatic, and a lot of it was off of Prophet's Rumble, which is why you can see that ban immediately thrown towards him. The Trundle also going towards Memento, but it does leave things like the Camille open, given that he does like to play those early game skirmish ganking style junglers.
That is certainly a possibility, and you can see Roccat banning all of those big, strong, overtly powerful champions that we consistently see in the ban column one way or the other, the Aatrox, the Akali. Of course, the Varus gets picked up very quickly for Hansama, who has really only felt at home on these marksmen this split.
Yes, he certainly has, rushing a very early AD carry pick. They did get crushed by Vitality yesterday with the Draven Braum. A lot of attention was thrown down towards that lane. Let's see if Roccat look to try and emulate that style of play. For now, they're going to immediately answer with an AD carry of their own and a pretty comfortable support in the form of Tahm Kench. Many do consider that you need the Tahm if you're going to run an Ashe due to her low mobility and often challenging laning phase, given that she is quite susceptible to ganks.
True. Ashe definitely not one of those champions played for the laning phase. This will be all about those cross-map arrows. Let's see what Misfits decide to answer with. That's a quick Talia pickup there from Maxlore. So not a lot of hesitation on the Misfits side. They clearly know what they want to do in this matchup here.
And Maxwell does have 3 games on the Talia so far this split. We remember when Misfits was going 9-0, this was the champion that he was having his best performance on, currently undefeated on it so far this split. So Misfits going to be more than happy to get their hands on that jungle champion.
Nice little hover for Senkuk's one of his favorite champions, the Aurelion Sol, but it ends up being for Mickey X, the lock-in of that Pyke. So, a little bit more aggressive in the bottom lane, possibly some roaming. There's a lot of champions with a lot of movement speed here on the Misfits side. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, a lot of roaming right now, a lot of potential to just invest a lot of resources in towards the middle lane. Quite excited to see how Misfits play this. Are they returning to that early game style? Are they looking to play a lot through bot lane? Where will we see these early ganks go, if we even see them at all, as we haven't for a while for Misfits?
That is very true. Maybe that'll change this game, but I'm looking at Rockat's side because they just locked in an Olaf for Memento. And with the Nocturne up and available, they even flashed it. They opt into that choice.
So Olaf, we've seen over in the LCK a lot being drafted into the Talia, largely because in the early levels he can chase her down pretty effectively. She doesn't have any dashes or escapes, which means that if a single axe lands, it's actually quite easy to lock her down and get close. But also his ulti kind of ignores all of her CC, and then you just glue yourself to her, and she really can't do much about it. So it's often considered a pretty strong pick, and we're starting to see it more now in the western side of League of Legends, and Memento going to draft that for himself. We know he likes early game junglers. Olaf has been considered a strong early skirmisher, and you only have to think back to yesterday's games where Vitality brought it out on Kikis, where he showed a lot of the early game potential that this champion does have.
So for Roccat, maybe possibly looking to channel their inner H2K. We already saw one upset of the apple cart earlier. Maybe Roccat can pull off something similar. Remember, now they're not fighting for anything in the playoffs. They're already locked out of that, but they can certainly make it harder for Misfits to get where they want to go. As we round out the last of our Phase 2 bans, that's a Lissandra ban away. Of course, we saw a slight resurgence of Lissandra not too long ago.
It's largely just a comfort pick for Blanc. He often prefers to play these utility mid laners, things to offer setup, things to offer crowd control, and the Lissandra is a champion that fits nicely into that position, and Misfits say, you know what, we don't want to have to deal with that. If anything, we want to play a lot through that mid lane, and Lissandra makes it difficult to do so. So we're just going to take it off the board. Roccat going to answer with a Mundo. I like this because you can see a lot of ability power damage coming out from the side of Misfits so far. Strong frontline tank that Roccat can look to rely on, and so far they have a pretty beefy frontline. They're just missing damage right now from their mid lane.
Yeah, I trust any team with Freddy122 as the coach to lock in a Mundo every now and again, so Prophet will take that for the 5th time this split, one of his most played champions. Last second ticks down, and Misfits Gaming pull the old switcheroo. Instead of Senkux going onto that Galio, he locks in the LeBlanc.
So Misfits going very much towards the early game. This is where they found so many wins in the first half of the split. Things like the LeBlanc mean that you often have pressure in the mid lane. It gives you opportunities to roam, or because you have things like the Pike and the Tilia, you can just invest all your gank towards the mid lane yourself. Misfits can also round out with another carry in the top lane, but instead they're going to go on for the tank. Cho'Gath round things out quite nicely because it offers another front line, gives them a little bit more Baron threat as well, and I think that they are just looking to play either around mid or through the bot side of the map.
Okay, so Misfits giving themselves some options, but definitely staying true to that early game, aggressive, centric style that they want for this one. Last couple seconds, Roccat debating the last pick they'll have. Norscarin having a little bit of fun, and that's a Twisted Fate.
Now we have seen I believe we've seen the TF once this split, and I think it came out from Nukeduck very early on into the split. But I'm surprised that they would voluntarily pick that into the LeBlanc. One of the big things about Twisted Fate is he doesn't have that many escapes. He's pretty short range, and a mage like LeBlanc can very quickly lock you down and kind of chunk you out of lane very effectively. It does give you a lot of roaming power. It means that you can look to set up a lot of pick plays with things like the Ashe Arrow and the Twisted Fate ulti, which is great. Be able to move towards the side lanes a lot, but the early game for Roccat concerns me a little bit. We'll see how they play out against this very strong early game of Talia and LeBlanc and Pike all coming out from the side of Misfits.
Yeah, you got to get through that gauntlet before you are able to get on your feet. But if Roccat can do that, we know that this is a team that is not afraid to take the fight to anyone, and I mean anyone. And both of these teams have so much global potential down the line. You got Ashe Arrows, you've got Twisted Fate. Of course, you got teleports on just about everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one goes. Misfits Gaming still fighting to try and get a second place and a bye into playoffs. Direct route to Madrid. It's going to be a long road ahead, but it all starts if they can secure this victory. Will they be able to do it? Or will Roccat knock their blocks off and kind of go out 2018 in a bang?
Yeah, it's definitely an important matchup for Misfits if they want to secure a top spot or a better seeding coming into playoffs. They're out of contention of challenging for first place, but as you said, due to recent results today, they can still get that second place spot. They can still get the bye and lock in a trip to Madrid. Roccat, they're playing for pride. They're on a 6-game losing streak right now, and they would love to end their split on a win. But also, Pyra, there is another battle for first going on in the EU LCS right now, and that is between me and Deficio.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, it's our prediction battle. And this game is very important because we have a different prediction.
For this game?
For this game specifically. So we're both going to be, well, I mean, I have to watch it intently because I'm casting it, but Deficio 2 will be watching very, very closely. So we'll see how things play out as the game progresses. So,
I know you picked Roccat.
Yes.
So tell me how they're going to win this game.
So, so far, this draft concerns me a little bit.
You're pulling back now, aren't you?
Largely just because they don't... To me, it feels like they don't have many lanes to play around. If you're drafting Mundo in the top lane, you're not really looking to set up a lot of ganks in the early game. You don't really need to snowball Mundo. You know he's going to scale. You know he's going to be fine in a side lane later on. That's fine. In the bot lane with Ashe, Tahm Kench, you do have some setup with the Ashe Arrow. But again, Ashe is much more of a scaling champion. It's not the lane you really need to snowball. You just kind of want to keep that lane alive as much as possible. Just play more defensive. Just farm, scale up, you're fine. Now, Twisted Fate, he does have some lane setup because he does have the gold card. It's a point and click. It's pretty easy to land. But against a LeBlanc who has so much mobility, generally generates a lot of pressure in the early laning phase. We can already see it at this level 1 mark. I don't know if this is a lane that you can actively find a lot of leads in. And when you're drafting this Olaf, it's not necessary that he has to find early game leads. But once he hits that level 6 mark, you want to be making plays around the map. You want to have some kind of an advantage coming into the mid game. And for Roccat, I'm just a little concerned about where they are going to find it. But if it will be anywhere, they'll look to utilize the Twisted Fate ulti and the early damage that Olaf does bring to perhaps find a couple of ganks in one of these side lanes.
They certainly have to have a plan. They opted into this one, and now you just look at the compositions, that's one thing, but you have to remember that Misfits have had a really rough ride as of late. It's, as you pointed out in the pick and ban, not been too happy a back half of the split.
No, it certainly has not. Currently 2-6 over their last 8 games. Only 1 game left to pay, which is obviously against Roccat. And I also think it's really important to mention that the last time these two teams met at the end of a split, spring split, very important game. Bit of trading goes on. Very important game. Misfits needed that win to qualify for playoffs. It was them versus Roccat, and Roccat nearly perfect gamed them. And through that win, Roccat were able to secure a spot in the playoffs. And no one expected it. No one believed that it would happen. I am a believer. I think that it can happen again. But we'll have to see if they're able to pull it off. So far in the early game, Hikyu and Noscarin have been putting a bit of pressure down, a bit of trading back and forth. Noscarin getting low.
That's a nice bone skewer that really set all of that up. So Noscarin is tanking enough up. Mickey X as well. Got to be careful on that Pike. Not the most robust of champions, but he can certainly get some kills off. Now, if there's anything Hansama could use down in this bottom lane, it would be an early kill on the Varus. Let's keep an eye on what Memento does, because you mentioned that he could maybe help out in the mid lane. Maybe he has his eye towards giving some relief in the bot.
Ooh, another bone skewer does land, but now we can see Memento already eyeing his way up. They can see the pings coming down. Both the LeBlanc and the Talia following Memento.
Okay, dodging away from the chains. Gotta be careful though. Max Lore incoming. Memento throws the axe. Those double buffs looking juicy though. And he's forced to flash away. Mickey X is not gonna let him get away that easy. Flashes forward and he whiffs on the hook, but they're still going for him.
So
they really want this first blood. And he's able to walk away for now, but not for long. Max Lore gets first blood.
A lot of summoner spells committed, but Misfits do find the early kill onto Memento. I was surprised by how much time he spent in the river after seeing LeBlanc come down. He didn't respect that Max Lore could be right behind Senkux, and as a result, he ended up losing his life. So many summoner spells were used, and we'll get to break it down a little bit more in this replay right now. So, a bit of a trade happens in the bot lane. Mickey and Hansama overextend a little bit. Noscarin be acting as a bit of bait. But then Memento sees Senkux here, and at this point you should just disengage, especially with the chains missing. But he thinks he can go for a fight. Maybe Twisted Fate can come down, but you can see he is pushed underneath his tower. And the rest of Misfits can come for the collapse. Now, a lot of flashes used, a lot of skill shots missed, but then Memento ends up in this choke point where those linear skill shots, unfortunately, were not dodgeable.
Most expensive blue buff secured. I do not feel unconfident saying that. While that's happening, though, the rest of the map, it's just slight farming advantages for Roccat because of how much time was invested by Misfits to get that kill. Still, the first blood, something you want, and it plays towards Misfits getting themselves as much ahead early as they possibly can, playing towards that win condition.
That's for sure. This bot lane for Misfits has shown a track record that when they are behind, they have very little impact on the game. And I feel like that with this draft they've got for themselves, it's very easy for Misfits to play around bot, or at least that's the lane they like to play around, but naturally it can be challenging when it is a Tahm Kench and an Ashe who can farm very safely and have a lot of self-peel as well. With all these summoners unavailable right now for Misfits, I'd love to see Memento make a return gank. Maybe they'll wait though for Hikyu to hit that level 6 mark so that that gank setup is a little more optimal.
Yeah, without those flashes being available, that might be a unique opportunity for Roccat to really find something here. Instead, it looks like Memento is going to opt to try and solo out the Ocean Drake. Maybe he'll get a little bit of help here from Hikyu and Noscarin. They're actually moving up, but it might just be for ward contention purposes. Mickey X clears that one away. So they will actually join Memento here.
Now Max Lore is on the top side of the jungle. He doesn't have his ultimate yet, and Senkux doesn't have pressure in mid either, so Misfits don't feel super confident trying to contest this. They might go for a cheeky steal. Won't be able to get it thanks to the smite.
Nothing doing there. Meanwhile, though, Blank and Senkux did take a slight bit of a trade, and there's level 6 available for both, which means you can start seeing some Destiny roams out of Blank.
I'd love to see that. That's why you'll already see Misfits. Look at all the wards they have in the river. Double control wards set up where spots that Blanc would be noticeable on, largely because he will look for roams and he will do it towards the bot lane where there are no summoner spells available. Hikyu level 5 as well. I want to quickly look at his experience bar to see how far he's about halfway right now to level 6. Once he hits that mark, I really want to see Roccat make a play towards that bot lane.
Yeah, you can only cleanse the one. Hansama holding on to that summoner spell. Remember, no flashes in the bottom lane from the first blood onto Memento. So we might be in for some more action. For now, though, Senkux is keeping him locked up in lane.
So the next Drake to spawn will be another Ocean, always valuable in the early laning phase, gives you that extra bit of sustain. Farm across the board, going in favor of Roccat. You talked a little bit about it earlier, Pyra. And remember, in terms of stakes, for Roccat, this game doesn't really mean anything. They've been on a pretty hefty losing streak. They lost their last 6 games, and they'd love to end their split on a win. But for Misfits, this means a lot in terms of being able to qualify for that bye spot. And in order to do that, they're relying a lot on finding this early game lead with the LeBlanc, with the Pike, and with Maxwell now hovering around the bot lane. They have a control ward in this back bush. That allows him to slide on in undetected.
Okay, you can see Mickey X looking to come back in as well. EQ has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Should he choose to use it, Maxlor decides there isn't really a lot he can get done here. Wouldn't be a whole lot of answer available for Memento. He's occupied in the top half of the map. But it's good you bring up the playoff situation for Misfits, because it is about trying to get themselves not just into a better playoff position, but to kind of live up to the expectation that was set last year with this team going as far as they did at Worlds. You've got to kind of make up for lost time because the spring split just wasn't that good for them.
Well, I feel like they want to set a lot of expectations, or they need to live up to a lot more expectations, but we've got to move away from that power as we see a gank down in the bot lane.
Okay, Memento take the blast cone over, and here's the Destiny. They got the stun off Hans Sama, going to cleanse it, but in comes the Twisted Fate. Let's see how this one ends. Nordscarin was tanking up the damage. Hans Sama going down to Hikyu, and it looks like it is a Misfits bloodbath, and Nordscarin
kept him alive.
saves the life of Memento. They get in, they get out with 3 kills.
Beautiful execution from Roccat, 3 for 0 in the bot lane, even with Maxlor there for the counter gank. There was nothing that they could do thanks to the fantastic play that we just saw from this Roccat 4-man. So this is a telegraphed gank. That control ward spotted these 2 members roaming down. The cleanse comes out, but keep your eye on who tanks the tower. Initially, it's Hikyu. He gets the first kill. The aggro then swaps over to Memento. Just before he dies, Nordscarin uses his ultimate to allow Memento to jump in, and both escape with their lives. Nordscarin, that was beautiful.
That was actually incredible. He didn't just save that one life, he also saved another by getting the actual proper swallow up. Now we gotta move away from that play because it looks like Blanc is in some trouble. He flashes away though, and he's saved once again, this time by his own abilities.
Mickey now on the roams, recognize the bot lane. After that play, he needs to find advantages elsewhere. They want to try and get some kills onto Senkux. But perhaps it's too little too late. He's doing what he can. He's on this playmaker, something that we know Mickey is very talented at. But Roccat finding this early lead. 1,500 gold in their favor. Remember, both teams so very much rely on early game advantages. Misfits over the last couple of weeks have failed to find them. Roccat in a similar boat, but even if they did find those leads, they often made those crucial mistakes that could cost them dearly. They have a comp that scales quite nicely with the Ashe and the Twisted Fate, especially the Mundo in the sidelines later into the game. But with a good early game lead like this, Roccat looking to be in a good spot as we just passed the 10-minute mark.
Certainly are right now. And it looks like we're going to start to see that translated to some of the items already completed at the moment. Got to be happy, but remember, Roccat, they have had advantages kind of fall away like you're talking about. This is what happened yesterday against Fnatic, so this is what Misfits have got to be hoping for at the moment.
Yeah, so we saw quite a competitive game versus Fnatic yesterday, where Roccat, they found a couple of early skirmishes, they sat on a bit of an early lead, but then a couple of poor fights ended up allowing Fnatic to snowball pretty significantly in their favor, and Roccat struggled to be able to come back. So Roccat, it's all well and good them getting this early lead, but we have seen them make these crucial mistakes, fail to find these really good team fights in the mid and late game, and we'll see if they've changed that coming in today, who against Misfits, who honestly have been a bit of a slumping team. I mean, they have been.
Certainly,
no
I mean,
doubt.
this is looking like a team that might be one of the weaker playoff contenders just based on current form. But Roccat are really taking it to them, so while we talk about the potential for them to kind of throw it away on a couple of bad plays, we've so far seen flawless execution, and man, big ups to Nordscarin for that incredible turnaround, and this is what a Tahm Kench can do for you when used properly.
Yeah, it was really good to see. We first saw it in the LCS, used by Kasing to save his AD carry in a clutch fight, and using it in that tower dive, it was a joy to watch the potential of Tahm Kench. He is running the NCL spellbook, currently sitting on Ghost and Teleport. I imagine, given that he did use his flash early, he wants that summon a spell. Now again, we see them moving towards bot. Destiny is available on Blanc. Wards are being cleared out from the Roccat bot lane. They have their eyes set on this tower, and everything is geared and ready to find themselves more kills.
They might just force the tower out already. That's not looking too healthy. A couple more minions, all they need. Here comes Mickey X to try and defend, but it's not going to happen. Memento shows face, and immediately Misfits know the game is up. So first tower goes the way of Roccat as well.
And look at how defensively Blanc is playing. He realizes I have no vision in the river. Misfits, if they're going to look for a gank, it will be in the mid lane. My jungler is playing around bot, so I'm just going to stay underneath my tower and wait for my bot lane to make a play. There's nothing needed to force it. We're all Norscarin caught out.
Uh-oh, Norscarin is in trouble. No gray health available. He just couldn't press it in time, so that's a Misfits collapse, and that'll be the end of the Dragon attempt as well.
Really good punish there from Misfits. All 4 members were in position to find that pick, and this comp is excellent at finding those picks. The ultimate from Maxwell to cut off his escape, the fact that Hanslama had the ultimate, combined with the Bone Skirt and the chains, all this single target CC was enough to punish Norscarin, who honestly should not have been in that position. He didn't have vision on the enemy team. There was full vision control for Misfits in the area of the river, and he ended up getting punished as a result. So Misfits, not out of this just yet. They are at a early goal deficit, but with this kind of composition, they have still strong at this point in the game and can still find those crucial picks.
Yep. Norscarin giveth, Norscarin taketh away. Unfortunately for Roccat, their push is stymied for just a little bit, but wait just a second. Maxlor trying to solo out Rift Herald, forced to flash, gets hit by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and he has got no cleanse, so Memento moves for him. Blank finishes him off with a card. And Hiku even gets swallowed up by Norscarin, ends up staying alive here. So once again, Roccat come out ahead.
Now they're going for a dive up top lane.
Okay, Alfari misses on the Rupture. Prophet still tanking the tower on this Mundo. Flash for follow. Let's see if it's enough to stun out. And the briefcase, Alfari, Roccat, they're the ones who are all business today.
And it's Norscarin getting save after save. Every time something looks dire for Roccat, it is Norscarin coming in and turning the situation around in their favor. This might be a great pick comp for Misfits, but how can you pick anyone if they're safe away in the belly of the Tarm Kench? This is going to be another tower going in favor of Roccat. 2,500 gold now sitting in their pockets.
Oh, 14 minutes into this game, 2 towers, 2-0 in favor of Roccat. Mickey X goes hunting for Blank. Maybe getting a little help from Senkux here. Let's see if he can pull another card out of his sleeve. Has the gold, gets eaten away. Double teleports coming through. I think Blank should be going down there. There's the heal swallow up. Once again, Norscarin does it. And they turn their attention to Senkux. Gets stunned up. There's the cards once again. He's going to be trying to dodge, dip, duck, and dive. And Hiku flashing forward. There's the jukes. One more card. All they need. And Norscarin licks him.
Oh, and now the kills just keep rolling in for Roccat. Ooh, now Prophet out of position.
He certainly is. He doesn't have the ultimate up and available. Goes golden thanks to his stopwatch, but that's going to break sooner or later, and Maxlor gets 1 kill back.
Oh god, we're seeing a lot of kills right now, Pyra. Very back and forth between these two teams, but it is often Roccat that is coming out on top. Not sure why Prophet tried to find that flank, given all the action was happening around that mid-tier 1 turret, but the action might not be over yet. Memento being collapsed on.
Okay, well, we've seen collapses before. Now he does Ragnarok away. He'll be fine. So, in contrary to the big Roccat mistakes that can sometimes throw a game away, these are the little ones. He's just getting caught out of position. It's not the most crucial time. Let's take a look at this one again, though, because this really turned that pick on its head.
Yeah, this was, again, really great play from Norscarin. The teleport coming into the mid lane and the Zhonya's being used by Blanc to just buy time. He then gets gobbled up, thrown towards Senkux, who's been split away from his support, and Senkux does what he can to escape, but Hiku was going to secure that kill. Senkux thinks he can be a tricky illusionist here, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. And then Prophet, he just hard commits onto Maxwell, thinking he can get that solo kill, but not respecting the positioning of the rest of Misfits. He ends up giving away a kill that arguably he shouldn't have, ends up being a 1-for-1 overall. But the fact that Senkux is currently 0-1-2 on this LeBlanc, Pyke yet to have a substantial impact in this early game, and Roccat with a 3,000 gold lead on a composition that you would kind of expect to scale pretty nicely into the late game. We'll see if Misfits can bounce back at all. Rift Herald is still available. Both teams can look to play around it. A lot of vision across the river still in favor of Misfits, largely because they're maintaining mid-control, given that Blank is playing so defensively. But now the duo of Norscarin and Memento grouping up, looking to clear out. Here's the Rift Herald being stunned.
All right, so 3 members of Roccat strong, trying to muscle their way through and grab a late Rift Herald in this game. Nobody's really stopping them on the side of Misfits, who have just had a rough time getting things going. Remember, this is the team that played for the early game that was going to be relying on Senkux getting ahead on this LeBlanc and being able to move around the map at will. 0-1-2 is not the score you want if you want to make this champion be feared by the enemy team.
It certainly is not. You know, Misfits, they kind of had a game plan. They wanted to either play through mid or, with the pressure they had mid, look to play through bot. But after a really good dive from Roccat in the bottom lane, once they hit those ulti points, they were able to pull it off. Remember all those summoners we used early on, because Misfits tried to get that first blood kill, and while they did get it, it ended up costing them much later on. Now Prophet, he is by himself in the bot lane, no flash, does have the ulti available, I believe, yes.
By himself is definitely the operative, because Misfits decided they didn't want that.
Didn't want to run the risk. They could have gone for an Ocean Drake there, given that all of Roccat had just recalled, but they didn't want to risk it. Instead, they're going to push out mid, maintain a bit of control towards the bot side of the map primarily, and not look to push anything further. Going to play a little bit more defensively, but here we are. Collapse coming into bot lane.
Rupture, walked away.
Yeah, all right. So Misfits struggling to find anything right now. We do still have the Rift held in the pockets of Memento. Clearly that mid-tier 1 is the big outer objective that Roccat still want to take down. With the Rift Herald that you do have and the limited wave clear available on the side of Misfits, I say limited wave clear. You always forget that jungler Talia does still have decent wave clear when paired up with
It just doesn't feel like it all the time. You know, it's not exactly the same as just having like complete wave chunk.
Yes, and I mean, you think about LeBlanc too. Her wave clear isn't optimal. She does a lot of damage with the W, but you don't really want to use that to just clear the minion wave out. So, regardless of what I was saying earlier, the Rift Herald really good at taking towers. That's the main point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you are absolutely right. It's certainly going to bolster their push. Now, we are in a quick pause for the time being, but as we're just shy of 20 minutes into this game, Misfits, you can see the frustration on their faces right now with good reason. This is a team with an early game win condition that should be very favored on Roccat, but once again, we are seeing the tide kind of turn away from the clear favorites on the day, and Roccat, they certainly could be looking at going out of the split with a smile.
And it would be... what's the word? Ironic? It would be bittersweet. I'm not sure. But the fact that Roccat nearly perfect game Misfits in their final game of the split in spring to secure a spot in playoffs, and now they could beat Misfits again to deny them that bye into Madrid and a guaranteed spot in the top 4. Like, that's just... that is the legacy.
I believe insult to injury is the term you're looking for, because at this point it's certainly...
But it's always Roccat, right? Like, how many times have we gone to the end of a split and it has been up to Roccat as an organization that are just like, you just got to beat Roccat and you're in a really good spot coming into playoffs. And then every time, like the time Roccat took down G2,
they've always got this X factor. Like, it doesn't even matter the roster. I think that's the thing that a lot of people can forget about sometimes, is that they have always been able to become this talent factory.
Yeah, I knew you'd say it, Pyra.
It's true. I keep saying it for a reason. They take these players that people don't really think about all that much. Okay, they had, you know, former SKT Prophet, sure. But apart from that, they take these players that people haven't heard the names of, they come up through the ranks, and all of a sudden, they're making insane plays. Tell me this. Where was Norscarin a year ago?
I believe he was in the Challenger Series.
And there you go. You start to look at what's happened since then, that these players have basically become more or less household names. Memento, man on your screen, is another one that I can think of, and they've really had some impressive performances. And to cap it off with a win, despite the fact that you're not going to playoffs, could mean a lot for these young players.
Yeah, and you've also got to think about the future, you know, the long term. I believe that a lot of these players do still have a bright career ahead of them. Memento has shown some phenomenal stuff so far this play. He has been a huge catalyst for enabling this team to kind of get a lot of the wins they did get through the first half of the split. And Norscarin as well. In this game alone, you can pick 2 or 3 moments where he's just made that highlight reel play. And while he hasn't been able to consistently do it, DeFischer said yesterday he has the potential to be one of the best supports in Europe in the future if he can continue this growth and this development as a player. So Roccat, they do deserve the title of being that talent factory. They have done it multiple times. You only need to look at some of our top teams in Europe and you realize, oh, a lot of these players were formerly on Roccat. So definitely well deserved.
It's a long legacy for this team. And, you know, Roccat, like, you can think back to when that organization joined the
2013,
LCS.
I think?
Yeah, seriously, they came as KMT. This was the all-Polish lineup. This was Jankos, Vander, Zazes, if you remember. I mean, you got to go way back
Overpower as well.
Selliver, too. I mean, and it was super hyped as well. Like, Roccat, there was a long time where they weren't really considered playoff contenders, way past that all-Polish lineup. But in the last year, it started to come back, and this is why it was so impressive to see them actually make it into the playoffs in spring. It's obviously disappointing it's not happening here in the summer as well. but they've still been close. And I think you can almost never count Roccat out through most of the split.
Yeah, and for Misfits, it's a bit of a different story because when they first joined the LCS, they had a lot of young talent. A lot of it was kind of unmeasured, unknown. And they made a couple of roster changes coming into the actual split back last year, spring 2017, where there were a lot of question marks around how well would they perform, what would they be able to do, and then they finished top 4 in their very first split of the LCS, and then immediately after, they made it to that finals in Paris, and then everyone can still remember they went to Worlds, they had that great performance against SKT, and this organization in the last 2 years has achieved a huge amount. They've already started building towards one of the many great legacies that we do have here in Europe, and they want to continue that. And after a rough spring split, they wanted to bounce back, and they did. And while they are faltering at the end, still so many teams have high expectations of them coming into playoffs. So let's see if they can live up to those expectations. We are back into the game, ladies and gentlemen. Misfits versus Roccat. Roccat currently sitting with the gold lead. They have looked pretty dominant so far in this early game. Can they make the upset happen?
Well, certainly gunning for it right now, and leaving Shelly to charge down the line. It's going to be outer tower taken. That's number 3 for Roccat. Remember, Misfits have failed to secure a single tower so far in this game. And it's looking like the momentum is not slowing down anytime soon for Memento and the crew. Here goes Senkux trying for a cheeky pick. Not going to happen.
Yeah, Roccat getting a bit of deep vision now towards the top side of the map because they're leaving Prophet down towards bot. His teleport is unavailable, and they need to respect that Alfaris is up and ready to go. So they can't try and force any quick plays right now. But what you'll note from Roccat is they have a lot of globals or semi-globals in the Twisted Fate ultimate, the Ashe ultimate, and the Tahm Kench ultimate. And this means that as Misfits will look to try and set up this 1-3-1 that they do have, they have to be so cautious of the multiple members of Roccat that can just suddenly appear in a lane, lock down that single target, find a pick, and then quickly turn that into an objective.
Well, Vetty, feel like you're feeling pretty good about your prediction today.
Not yet. I am not getting excited.
You're actually holding back. Okay.
I'm treating this like a KT game. You never get excited until the Nexus
But KT,
dies.
you're looking so good.
Don't say
Laura's
that.
Gonna kill me for saying that, by the way. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a pretty apt way to describe it, too, because there's never anything 100% for certain one way or the other with Roccat. But right now, they're doing all that they need to. It's going to be a second Dragon taken down. Another Ocean, a little bit more regeneration. The gold lead staying about the same. Mostly the 3 towers and 3 kills. Hans Sama sidestepping the Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, he did have the cleanse, so he likely would have been safe in that scenario too, but all Roccat wanted to do there was burn that summoner spell. Fortunately for Hans Sama though, he didn't do what his reflexes, or what most people's reflexes would naturally do, which is turn around. The moment you see that CC, you want to run away, but he didn't. He held his ground, he let the arrow pass, and he wasn't forced to use that summoner spell. So good control over his own reflexes there.
Yeah, nicely done by Hans Sama. Did have cleanse, should he have needed to use it, but nah. Looks like, speaking of cleansing things out, Maxlar starts off with a QSS, and I don't know if he's going to be using it anytime soon because Hans Sama does get chunked, uses that cleanse out himself, and all of a sudden, it looks like Memento is caught on the wrong side of the wall, but a handy-dandy Tahm Kench swallows him up.
We got to keep an eye on what was used in that exchange. Blanc traded his flash for the cleanse of Hans Sama. No kills went either way. Alfari still has the teleport up, but so does Prophet. And now Misfits grouping up as a 5-man unit in the middle lane. So overall, I would argue Misfits came out on top because they still have priority over the river. They're the ones that still have that vision control for the time being, and no other side lane towers were really threatened. And given that Blanc now no longer has that flash, and his stopwatch is unavailable in the event that a skirmish were to break out in the near future, Misfits still feeling pretty confident. They are at a bit of a goal deficit, as we mentioned, but for the time being in that last exchange, they're okay with how that played out.
Okay. So, despite not getting those kills, Misfits happy for the time being. But how much time do they actually have to try and set things up? Because this is still an early game team that hasn't snowballed.
So I think it's important to remember, you know, when you talk about early game teams, it's just that, ooh, Blanc could be in some trouble.
That's a value ward, Blanc. Oh boy, throw that gold card out, but doesn't matter, can't dodge all that CC.
Yeah, no flash, no stopwatch, no cleanse. Very good pick there for Misfits. All that farm is going to go to waste. They'll pick themselves up their first tower of the game as well. And this will just keep the pressure up in favor of Misfits. Again, note how much vision they have around the Baron. Even though they've been in a gold deficit, the ward wars have heavily been going in their favor with the amount of control that they've maintained in the top side of the map.
So Misfits, that finally pays off. They get themselves some well-earned gold to try and cut down some of that lead that Roccat have already accrued. Tower up in the top, going to be good for them, and now they can start to wind their way down to the mid and focus their attention there.
Yes, they certainly can. Roccat. Thing is with their composition, remember, they want to find picks themselves. Remember the semi-globals that we were talking about. Good damage there from Senko.
But Norscaren's there.
Yeah, he's going to mitigate a lot of that pick threat. Fortunately for Blanc, he didn't have that safety earlier on. And again, though, but these ward walls that we were talking about, look how much vision control Misfits have all across the map. It enables them to move up aggressively like we're seeing, contest these buffs. They are at a gold deficit, but they're the ones dictating the pace of the game right now, and they're looking to force this tower mid.
Okay, let's see if anything can be changed here. Here we go with the Destiny coming through. Misfits immediately turning tail and running the gold card. Norscaren swallowing up Blank, and the rest of Roccat quick to respond. The tower's bleeding out, but it's staying alive.
Now this is great for Misfits once again, because they forced the teleport out from Profit. They didn't end up losing any members. The only thing they had to use was the flash from Mickey, and now Profit face check.
Oh. He might have just walked into that red buff for just a second. He's able to get out.
All right, a little risky. He has no idea how many members were in that brush.
Mundo goes where he pleases.
I mean, it's true, and he does get away with his life, fortunately for Roccat. Level 14 on Profit right now, and Roccat finally reclaiming some of the vision that they haven't had around this Baron area. Senkux looks for a potential pick. Just a lot of trading back and forth for the vision right now.
Yep, it's definitely a lot about those ward wars. So you can see on your screen as well. Next matchup going to be Fnatic versus Unicorns of Love. That's always a fun one, despite the fact that Unicorns are further down the standings. I always love when those two teams clash. It's always unexpected.
And I mean, we've had a lot of unexpected results today.
That's
Splice were not playing towards the late game. They were snowballing against Giants. That was fun to watch. And then H2K, they made the meme a reality. H2 and 16 after taking down a 10-1 second half Schalke.
Yeah.
And now Roccat currently in a 3,000 gold lead over Misfits, and looking to break their undefeated streak to end. Their loss streak as the.
And no one wants to break their undefeated streak. Misfits had an undefeated streak. This team has definitely had a rough second half of it. I mean, we keep going back to it like broken records, but it is crazy. We were talking about could they match the Fnatic perfect split from 2015 summer. A while ago, and it just has changed a lot. So Misfits need some confidence here going into those playoffs.
Why is Memento topside? Not sure what he's trying to do right now in that top half of the map. They need to be playing this 1-3-1. They need to be using these globals to find picks, and instead right now Roccat have just slowed down a lot. Misfits using this window of opportunity to take down a couple of outer towers. They've taken top, they've taken mid. They're maintaining good vision control around this Baron. This is why things are still very close. Remember, what we mentioned earlier, Roccat have this tendency to, even with a gold lead in the mid to late game, make those poor decisions that end up losing them games that arguably they should have won. And a lot of it does come off the back of they make uninformed decisions. They try to go for plays without full information of where the enemy team is. They try to force objectives without respecting the potential turnaround. And it does mean that often teams have been able to come back against Roccat, and that's what Misfits are looking for right now. Taliyah will still do plenty of damage as the game progresses. Varus is always going to be a late game threat because he is that AD carry with the Rage Blaze. And while LeBlanc falls off in terms of teamfight impact, she does still have huge pick potential as the game progresses.
Trying to get the pick off onto Memento, not going to happen. He doesn't even actually need his Ragnarok, and there goes the wall. But it's only separated Misfits from the rest of Roccat. And now Roccat looking to march a couple more minions into this inner tower, not going to fall into the trap of going too deep in there with the collapse imminent. But it's good that you mentioned that Roccat may have had a history of making these uninformed decisions, because this is what the vision is all about, making sure that you actually get the information you need to make those good decisions. And lo and behold, Misfits are the ones that are actually getting the better vision in this game.
I feel like Roccat could have gone for a Drake there. They had priority over mids, and given that Profit is pushing in towards the bot lane, would have been an easy take, I feel. But apparently they didn't want to risk it. They wanted Blanc to go catch that top wave. He wants to get a little bit more farm under his belt, matching now the level of Senkux. We haven't seen him use his ultimate for, I want to say, like 15 minutes now, which is a little concerning for Roccat, because when, again, I talk a lot about it because it is the whole point of their composition, finding these picks, using these globals to catch people out of position. They have so many ways to do it, yet right now they're not enforcing that, and it's just allowing Misfits to to just not really concede very much. They can move around the map as they please. Like right now, you can see the positioning of Maxlor. He's pretty far up past the river. They have 2 control wards in the top side of the map, so they have full control of the Baron. In the event the Roccat go for a Dragon, there's the risk of the Baron being started, and it is a pretty fast Baron take. Remember, you have the Cho'Gath on Alphari as well with that Consume. And you can already see Alphari now moving up. No teleport available on Prophet. He did push out bot, but he's looking to group up with his team, and maybe Misfits now try to force this Baron.
Oh, there's no teleport from Prophet, as you said. This
Needs
is
to move.
going to be, if they pull the trigger on it, it's going to see with the Ashe E.
See, now this is huge.
This is happening.
Because the E has now just been used. It's going to be started, and look how fast this goes down.
Yeah, Memento and North Karen already here, though. So let's see if they can try and get Mickey X down. No, here comes the Destiny, the Twisted Fate coming in, and Mickey X pulls North Karen back, and that Baron is very low. Let's see if they can get inside of the pit. That Ashe Arrow's coming down in. Goes the Olo! And Memento steals the Baron, and he flashes the pit. Now the fight is going to be on. North Karen gets the swallow up, but he gets taken down. Blank pops out the belly, and they're continuing to move this one forward, but that's a lot of low health bars on the Misfits side. EQ trying to find the extra damage onto Alphari. He gets 1, he gets 2, and now they're going to be able to try and clean this one up. It's Hansama Senkux, the last member standing. Blank goes forward, flashing gold card damage. It's all he needs.
Ooh, Senkux uses his flash. Blanc still on the chase.
Yeah, he wasn't baited for even a second. That card certainly was golden, and Roccat get the Baron and the ace to boot.
You can see the elation on Rockat's face as they find themselves an ace, secure themselves a Baron, and what a way to do it. Memento, the hero of Roccat, in his final game of summer, steals away the Baron and secures a big teamfight win for Roccat.
Oh, let's take a look at that ace again, brought to you by Acer Predator.
So, Misfits, they force the Baron here. They know that there's no TP on Prophet, and with the numbers advantage, you want to turn and go for the fight. They commit to the Baron. He's still CC'd, so he can't consume this. The smite comes down, and Alphari cannot eat it in time, allowing Memento to get that smite steal. Roccat could disengage at this point, but with the arrival of Prophet, they feel they can go for the fight. So many ultimates have been used on the side of Misfits. Prophet tanks up so much damage, and look at Hiku on the backline, flashing in 2v1. Yes, he loses his life, but it's a trade in favor of Roccat overall. And oh, what a great fight for Roccat. So many kills going in their favor. They take down all 5 members of Misfits. They now have the Baron, and this was a huge mistake for Misfits that Roccat were quick to capitalize on.
Yeah, and that is the face of a man who has to be pretty darn happy about what just went down. All of a sudden, you're 30 minutes into this game, and Roccat have completely turned it back in their favor. They were letting the game slip from their grasp, but now they've got Baron on several key members. They've got the push in 3 lanes, and it's Misfits who are forcing the fights, who are forcing the tempo, that are finding themselves on the back foot once more.
But I don't think that the decision itself was bad, because you look at the circumstances that they were in. Prophet had no teleport. They knew they had a numbers advantage. They had constantly maintained control around Baron, and forcing that objective to either get a fight against Roccat or secure a Baron where you have a Cho'Gath should have been good, but the execution was off. Memento got the steal, Prophet arrived, and then everything ended in disaster.
Sometimes you can make no wrong decisions and still lose. That's certainly the case of it. So a minute left for the Baron. Let's see what Roccat can actually get done. They're moving towards the bottom side of the map, but Misfits are fast to react to this. They might be able to stall it out.
Well, you can see right now, Prophet pushing in the middle lane. 4 members of the
Taliyah wall.
Here comes a fight.
All right, instantly blank. He gets rooted, but he goes golden for just a second. And North Karen gets to swallow up. The gray health is not nearly enough. Mickey X gets the kill on his opposite number, and blank to boot. The rest of Roccat scattered to the winds, and that looked like Misfits having the number of Roccat.
And this was a good punish on the side of Misfits. Remember, no flashes on Blank and nor Skaren. They got too close to the turret, and with Prophet in mid, it was too much of a risk for Roccat to get that close to the tower, and Misfits were so quick to catch those targets out of position. Really good to the wall coming out from Maxlor. The follow-up from the rest of Misfits enables some quick kills, and this will remove the power of the Baron. I believe Roccat got themselves 1 or 2 turrets. But outside of that, Misfits have now relieved that pressure.
Game gets a little more interesting here. Prophet not quite in the place to respond, and this fight was pretty much over before it began.
So yeah, you can see Memento isn't even in position. Blanc is way too close to the tower, and Misfits are just, okay, you guys are going to overextend, we're going to immediately punish you. You can never afford to underestimate this Misfits squad. They still have a lot of talented individual members on their team, and the moment they see that opportunity, they go for it.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Roccat, you can't necessarily protect everybody with Tahm Kench if you're the one who's getting deathed from below.
I mean, it's true. And the thing about Pike's ultimate is it will go through shields as well. So even if you have that grey health procced, he don't care. He's just going to kill you anyway.
Yeah, that's why Mickey X picked him. All right, Prophet's going to blast Cone Express over this wall, but he does run smack dab in 3 members. I wonder how tanky the Mundo is.
Well, he's 3v1 right now.
Yeah, he's actually fine.
And he's swagged
he's
out of that.
He's completely fine.
Yeah, he is
no,
actually...
No, that is just disgusting.
He just brushes that
he's
off.
Full
like
health.
Yeah. Ignite was used by Mickey. They get no punish. Now, look at the rest of Roccat. They have pushed up the bot wave. They've got control over mid as well. And now Memento's coming in.
All right. Whoop. Going for a zoom. Not able to find anybody just yet. Sencook's there trying to get the dodge on, and it looks like now the tables have turned on Alphari getting chased down by Norskaren. Heq Prophet. Heq trying to kite away. Got to be careful with the Blanc coming in, and the Crystal Arrow at point blank range onto Mickey X's face. Meanwhile, down to the bottom, the split push continues to go. Let's see if Hansama can stay alive. I don't think so. Fancy footwork won't help you here. Sencook's Mickey X chasing out a Memento. That this is getting real spicy here, Vedius.
Misfits still committing to the fight, but look at Blanc. He's going for the back door in the bot lane.
Oh, and he's actually deciding to just go further forward as the fight has already ended, continuing to try and make this happen. The channel coming through, Maxlor trying to interrupt onto Heq, and Norskaren can't quite go over the wall. Heq is able to get the kill, and Sencook's interrupted on the back.
He's going
it's
for
only
it.
going to be the Pike on top of the Twisted Fate. Gold card, blue card, doesn't even matter. This is still going in the base.
Blanc, can he do it? It's only 1v1 against Mickey. Mickey doing what he can to just stall out. Blanc does have vision on him.
Gold card, there we go, and he's not going to be able to have enough in the shields to stay alive. It's shutting down. Sencook just walked a long way back, and there's no more minions here to push this tower, but Norskaren is here to save the day. That backdoor's going to end a little early.
Oh, my word. But Roccat gained so much off the back of that Misfits. They hard committed to the fight. They wanted to try and turn it back in their favor, but they lost the bot inhibitor. One of their Nexus turrets went down, and if it weren't for some quick backs from Mickey, that could have been the game going over to Roccat. Misfits struggling as we approach the 35-minute mark.
This has been a hell of a game, and it's definitely teeter-tottered a little bit. Definitely in favor of Roccat more often than not, but Misfits have started to bring it back time and again, only for this to happen.
So, Roccat go for a collapse onto Alphari. They said, this time, our 3v1 is better than your 3v1. We can kill your tank, but Alphari does a really good job of buying time with Maxwell hanging around. Then Heq, his positioning was fantastic in this final fight, and props to Norskaren keeping him alive as long as possible, because as the fight continues, Heq will be pivotal in delaying the backs. Remember that this is effectively a 4 versus 5 in favor of Misfits, because Blanc is still sitting in the bot lane. Mickey, because he finds that execute, is able to get the kill, but then Heq was able to find a kill here onto Maxlor. He did have to use his flash, but then he interrupts the back from Sencook's as well. He does give his life for it, but it does enable that inhibitor to drop, the tower to go down, and Roccat to be in more of a power position.
I think that's worth at the end of the day. So Roccat now, what can they do with this? Still that gold lead, 8,000, and the Baron is up. Roccat are
They're
moving
going straight for it. Where's the
started.
ulti from Blanc? They need vision on Misfits.
You got three members coming in here. It's actually going to be a quick peel away from the Baron. Blank had Destiny, opted not to use it. The Mundo has teleport as well, so not a full commit.
He's still pushing in bot lane as well. Remember, there are super minions here. If Maxlor shows, they can just go straight back towards the Baron.
Okay, Maxlor has showed. Prophet decides to ult, ping, yeah, and now they see Alphari as well, so it's back to Baron business right now for Roccat. Trying to take out that big purple worm on the route to victory. Here comes Mickey X. The blue trinket's down. They'll be able to see this one in full sight, and Misfits are gunning for it.
There's the TP from Alphari. They're going to try and get the steal.
Okay, Mickey X going through another teleport coming out. The Crystal Arrow. No,
Great arrow!
Down Memento. They got the interrupt on, and let's see if they can take this fight trapped in the back of the pit, trying to scramble around the side. Alphari on the front line, keeping them all locked in place, but doesn't matter. Blank picks up Maxlor. The rest of Roccat starting to fall a little bit low. Can Misfits take the fight and wipe away the Baron of Roccat? Double kill for Sencook's. It's better late than never, I suppose.
So Misfits do end up finding a pretty good fight where they take away the bot lane's Baron from the side of Roccat, but Roccat still secure themselves the Baron. It still sits on top of 3 members. All these super minions are still walking into the base, and it is still Misfits that are on the back foot.
Oh. So Roccat stymied just a little bit in their ability to try and march in for a win, but this game just keeps going ever so slowly in favor of Roccat, but there's an Elder Dragon on the board in 45 seconds. Vedius, and after this fight just went down, Roccat should be feeling pretty confident to take it.
So they have the TP come in from Alfari, and they know that with the Talia wall up, they can quickly get into the Baron pit, but a really good Ash Arrow to deny him from the pit, but I think it was too slow on it anyway. It was guaranteed to go in favor of Roccat. Then the fight kind of splits up into two parts. Prophet is tanking 4 members, but he ends up just leaving his bot lane inside the pit, and they can't get out of that situation. Garen is CC'd too long, which means he can't utilize his gray health. He ends up going down. He can't peel for Hiku, who didn't have any flash available to him. And even though he ended up dying, look at how much damage he was able to output in that fight.
Hiku has been an absolute boss this game. Like, whether it's just flashing out of like 1 or 2 CC chains to just get himself out of harm's way, while still pumping out the damage. I mean, he's making this Ashe look like a hyper carry right now. Norscarin does get knocked back to gray health. Critical timing there, but he gets melted through almost immediately. However, the rest of Roccat are here to respond to Hiku with a finishing blow on a Mickey X. Here comes Blank, extra damage, looking for Senkux, dodging away from the cards. But the Roccat wrecking crew is here to clean house, and Maxlor getting chunked out by Blank. Alfari's going to be left for dead. That is one nom nom too many, and I think he bit off more than he can chew. EQ with another kill.
Roccat find another successful fight. They have the Baron buff enabled. 3 members are dead for Misfits and Pyra. I think we're going to see another upset. I think Roccat are going to shut down Misfits.
I don't think this fight is even over yet. Hans Sama got licked up by Norscarin, Grey Health's on, and he's going to go a nom nom nom, or maybe not. Leave it for Prophet in the business. Senkux and Hans Sama, the last member standing, as the inhibs will not last very long in this, and there is only one Nexus turret remaining between Roccat and victory.
Roccat have the Nexus on their eyes. They want to end this split on a win. Misfits looking to get shut down.
Senkux dives in. Senkux goes down. The last-ditch defense is not going to be enough. Roccat clean up house. And on the last day of the split, their last game of 2018, Roccat blast off to victory.
Fantastic game to watch for Roccat. They end their split on a high. They make the tiebreaker scenario so much simpler for so many teams.
Tie's a bit less broken.
Yeah, I mean, Misfits now out of contention of that bye due to the upset created by Roccat. They're on a 6-game losing streak until this game. And we said it, Pyra. Spring split. It was Roccat who perfect gamed Misfits, secured their spot in the playoffs, and knocked Misfits out of it. Now, once again, it is Roccat upsetting Misfits, denying them that bye, and ending their split on a high.
It's poetic. Whatever else you want to call it, you have to give it to Roccat right now for delivering on the final day when it did not matter. Apart from for their pride, to maybe knock Misfits down a peg or two, they managed it. And it wasn't without some stumbles. Like, there were a couple of those classic, wait, what are you doing in that position? But Roccat persevered. They came up with a victory that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, but I know one person who did. Maybe not exactly that way, but I'm gonna give you some credit for getting the right results.
Give me the high five.
Oh God, he's going for it.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Excellent game to watch. It was fantastic from both sides. There were moments where we saw some great moments of brilliance from the side of Misfits, a couple of good fights that maybe they could have swung in their favor, but the early game was just all about Roccat. And it all started with that bot lane dive. We got to think back to that execution. Norscarin looking beautiful in the way he set that one up, utilizing the ultimate to keep Memento alive in what looked like a dire situation, ends up being a clean 3-for-0, and that's really where the snowball started.
Yeah, it was pretty critical, not just for Norscarin to set those things up, but I think Memento for being in the right place, the right time. I was wondering what he'd be able to do on this Olaf pick. Of course, it has been picking up a lot of steam in the LCK, and it seemed like he just straight up took to it. Like, Maxlor, by comparison, hasn't been as Johnny on the spot quickly into the games, because Misfits, up until about halfway through the split, they've been winning lanes pretty consistently, but Memento kind of had him run circles.
And props to Blanc as well. Oh, we get to see these replays now. This was the first dive. This was the level 6 mark. They utilized everything together to find those early kills in the bot lane, and just keep your eyes on Norscarin. The use of the ultimate just at the last second to take Memento to safety, walked them out with a clean 3-for-0 in the start. And this Baron started by Misfits. The setup looked good. They had the numbers advantage. They had the Cho'Gath ulti, but he wasn't able to pull it off because of a great Ash Arrow from Hiku, and Memento gets the steal. They then look for the fight where they find themselves a huge ace, and this is where things kind of solidified for Roccat.
Certainly. Solidified is definitely one way to put it right now. It looked for just a second, maybe they lose some members, but they tap out, they reset on that aggro, and even with the Pike coming up and the death from below, it was pretty epic. I got to give some serious props to not just the setup, but the way they executed those fights.
Yeah, I loved watching Roccat playing this final game. It's nice to see that this was the kind of potential that we talked about a lot when they were going 1-1 for so long during the regular season, and their kind of 6-game loss streak that they've now been on. They were able to play towards a start, which was very much early game. They had a bit of scaling in there too, and everyone just kind of came together. Prophet was a great frontline tank. Yes, he got caught out of position a couple times.
It was
Mundo.
Mundo.
To go back and review that.
It was fine.
Yeah, but also props to Blanc as well. Playing into the LeBlanc matchup can often be very difficult on a Twisted Fate, but he played very reserved. He very rarely overextended. He was only ever dying in team fights, which is kind of, you know, the best case scenario for him. He wasn't getting caught out of position. His use of the ultis, while I would have liked to see a couple more, was still very solid when they were used. And overall, it was great play from Roccat to secure a win.
Yeah, good fundamentals and good finish. Now, who do you think deserves the player of the game? Your choices, of course, are Blank, Norscaron, and Prophet. We'll head over to LOL Esports on Twitter, and why don't you tell us who you think? Next week, we're going to start the road to Madrid in the LCS Summer Playoffs, and if you want to watch the finals live the 8th and 9th of September, of course, you can still get your tickets at eu.lolesports.com/Madrid. Remember, you can't make it there. You can also check out our viewing parties all across Europe over at www.leagueoflegendsincinemas.com. So you always got places to watch, whether it's going to be live or on the big screen.
Yes, you do.
Absolutely. Now, to get more insight on Rockat's victory, here's Laura and their support.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Roccat ending their season with a win here. The nice plays with Top Kench, even so, a smile on your face at the end of the game. So regardless of the outcome today, what was your mindset coming on stage?
From last week, we already knew that we couldn't make playoffs, but we still had 2 matches left to play. So we kind of just went into the mindset that we should at least try to have fun. That's what we did, I think both today and yesterday. We just had a lot of fun, and we managed to win too, so it felt really good, actually.
Taking a step back now on your whole performance, because it was your first year in the LCS, as the caster stated before. So what do you think about the progression you made as a player through the year?
I mean, I made some progression, but I wish I made some more, because, I mean, I want to be a good player, obviously, and it feels good, playing games, knowing that you played well, because knowing that you played bad, you have so many regrets, and I have a few regrets from some games that I played poorly, and I wish next year that I will play a lot better, and I just strive to that.
What would you like to improve next year if you're in the LCS?
What did you say?
What would you like to improve next year if you're in the LCS?
Being able to lead my team, because I think it's an important role for a support, but seeing as my career is kind of short, I don't think of myself as a leader quite yet, but maybe in the future.
How was the communication in Roccat this year? Because you mentioned your role, shot calling.
I mean, it was quite, in the start, it was quite 2v8 by our Koreans. They're really smart, and again, our ADC shot called a lot, same with Memento. We just have different roles, kind of. In the early game, me and Memento do our thing, and then later game, we tend to fall back to Prophet and Blanc. So this is what we have done this year.
Got it. Now more about Misfits, because you beat them today.
Yeah.
I want to know a bit more about their situation, because they will be facing tougher teams as they come into playoffs. So what do you think about Misfits as a team recently?
Yeah, they seemed quite weak. I actually thought when I knew we were going to play them in the last match, I thought we were going to win, and we did. Because I think their meta is not too good for them right now. They're kind of falling back to how they played in spring, quite bad, because I mean this game they played really bad, and we played also really bad, but we managed to win. So.
Well, thank you for your insights, and once again, congratulations. Now, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be Fnatic versus UOL. Don't go anywhere.